Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi, and I am delighted today because I basically saw this kid when he was a young kid, and now he's about to graduate from Shelton High School. His name is Anthony Steele. He was the current co-captain of the Shelton High baseball team. And Anthony, it's great to see you.
It's great to see you as well.
So, Anthony, I'll tell you, I just can't get over. I'm looking at you right now. I can remember that kid who, was that young, 10-year-old boy who walked the halls of Perry Hill. It's hard to believe. Let me ask you, is it hard to believe that you're going to be graduating in a couple of weeks?
I think it's pretty exciting. It is like all my friends we always talk about. We're like, wow, we only got 1 week left of high school. So it's always kind of like you think about it, but it's also exciting. So I think it's pretty exciting.
Right. Now, Anthony, I've asked this question to a few of the athletes I've had on, so I'll ask you as well. How did the pandemic affect you, not just, personally, but, not being able to go to school, not being able to hang out with friends? How was that like for you?
I think it was one of those things where like one day they told everyone, "Hey, you can't see your friends anymore every day," and then you realized like after 1 week you were like, "All right, we have Christmas vacation. That's a 1 week thing. Like you don't normally see your friends over that all the time." And then it became like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you're like,
Right.
"Wow, I haven't seen my friends in 2 or 3 weeks in person. I haven't talked to them." And then it just kept going on, and we were like, "Wow, all right, well, we're here in this thing. We haven't seen anyone." So it was one of those things where you just couldn't see your
Right.
friends, and so that kind of like just made you upset that you weren't able to see people face to face, but you knew you still had kind of other ways to talk to them.
Right. Now, I mean, you love the game of baseball, and I mean, I think you kind of had a good idea as this thing continued to just spiral out of control that there probably wasn't going to be a season last year. How difficult was that for you as well as your teammates?
I think not having a season last year, we kind of knew in the back of our minds we were like, we saw a lot of other states being like, "Oh, we're probably not gonna have a season," and then our state was still holding out, and then it just got later and later in the year, and we were like, "We're probably not gonna have a high school season." And that was one of those things that as a team, we thought we were gonna be really good as a team, but we
Right.
never got to because we had all of basically our whole starting lineup returning last year, which would have been my junior year, and
Right.
just not to be able to play with that team to be like to see what we could have done was kind of one of those things like a big what if, like what could we have done as a team.
Right. And I'm sure, like, your teammates being important to you and everything, I'm sure, like, you had to feel so sorry for those seniors who didn't
Yeah.
get a season. That's the, unfortunate thing about all of this is that so many kids around the world lost their, senior year.
Yeah, that was one of those things where you felt bad for them. They didn't get like a final closure thing to be like, hey, they got to play their last game. They just got told they weren't able to play.
Right. Now, Anthony, let me ask you, where did the love of baseball begin for you? Was it basically like when you were like maybe 5 years old?
I feel like I was a little younger than that. I have a story where when I was younger, I was over my grandparents' house, like my whole family was over, and I was in the backyard and I was just throwing a baseball around. Like I would throw it, but then I would run after it and pick it up and then just throw it like further and keep going. And then my grandfather came out with a glove and we played catch. And that's probably I would say that's where it started.
Right. We all know you're a big Red Sox fan. I have to believe, being a lefty and stuff. Would you say David Ortiz was your favorite player growing up?
Oh, still is.
Right.
Still is. Probably will always be.
Right. And in 2013, I think you were a little young in 2007 to really remember that championship. But in 2013, you got to see the Red Sox win a World Series. That was also the first time they won it at Fenway since, 1918. They had won it on the road, obviously, but they had never clinched it at Fenway. So I know you were a young kid back then, but how awesome was that for you?
It was. I know I watched the whole game, but I want to say they won on Halloween night. I want to say that. I'm
Right.
not sure. You might have to fact check me. But I want to say it was Halloween night, and I definitely watched the whole game. I know I did. I said I'm watching the whole game, win or lose, no matter the
Right.
score. But I did. I got to see them clinch it on TV, and that was pretty cool.
Right. And I assume you've gotten to go to Fenway. You saw David Ortiz in person. You saw Dustin Pedroia, guys like that. Just talk about, like, how did the love for the Red Sox begin for you?
Well, my grandparents used to live in Natick, Massachusetts, which is only like 20 minutes away from Boston or so. It's
Right.
like a suburb of Boston, and I would be up there all the time. And then, on Massachusetts TV, no matter what channel you're on, you're gonna hear something about the Red Sox. So I was like, as a young kid, you would always hear about the Red Sox. So then I just started watching games, and then I saw David Ortiz, and I was like, that guy's my favorite player. So, so I
Right.
just always liked the Red Sox from then on out.
Right. And now your sophomore year of high school, the Red Sox would win another World Series in the fall of 2018. Now, obviously, you were old enough to, remember that and, see the excitement. Just talk about that a little bit because, they beat a good Houston Astros team who had won the World Series the year before. And then they beat a good Dodgers team. And I mean, not only beat them, they basically dominated them. So just talk about what that was like for you.
I'm pretty sure that entire postseason, I watched. I think I only missed two Red Sox games the entire time. So I was really excited. They kept going further and further, and I was like, in my head, as a fan, you always say they're gonna win. But that was one of those times I was like, I would tell my friends, I was like, it doesn't matter who we play, we're gonna win.
Right.
So
Right. So let me ask you this. You obviously came to Shelton in the fall of 2013, and we'll get to that in a minute. But where did you originally come from? Where were you from originally?
I lived in Naugatuck for
Naugatuck. Okay.
first 10. Yeah, 10. I moved here when I was 10. So yeah,
Right.
Naugatuck. I used to live there.
Right. And just talk to me. Did you said you got the love for baseball at age 3? When was like the first time you started playing t-ball and stuff like that?
Um, I think I played like either like I didn't really play t-ball. They moved me up in Naugatuck. They moved me like
Right.
right to coach pitch because they
Coach
were like
pitch. Yeah.
that. I started playing coach pitch. They never let me play t-ball. And then after coach pitch, they moved me. I played like 1 year coach pitch, and then they moved me right up to kid pitch
Right.
when
And
I was like 7. So yeah.
And now, when did you start playing in travel leagues? Would you say like right around 8 years old?
My first travel league was I was either 10 playing. I think I was 10 playing 11U with the Overlook Black Sox. Coach Charles, shout out to him. He was my first travel coach.
Right.
So
Now, let me ask you. You obviously pitched in high school, and we'll get to that. But did you have a love for pitching right away, or did it take some time before you started throwing off the mound?
I think I always started. Well, they were like, "Well, you're lefty, so you can't catch. You're not a catcher,
Right.
and lefties don't play shortstop, third base, or second base. You can play the outfield, first base, and then
Right.
you can pitch." And I was like, "All right, well, I want to play, so I don't want to sit the bench all the time because I'm lefty. So I'll pitch." And then they're like, "Just get on the mound and you throw." And then I always started throwing. I always had a relatively stronger arm the
Right.
entire time. So they were like, "You're gonna pitch. You're gonna probably pitch a lot in your future." And I was like, "All right." I just always started pitching.
Right. And let me ask you, because it's very important at a young age not to, hurt your arm, do any, like I know they teach kids at a young age not to throw curves because you don't want to, hurt your arm. How, how did, how did you handle pitching as far as keeping your arm healthy and stuff like that? Like when you say you were like 11 or 12 years old.
My coaches were always good about it. They never pushed me to throw every game. They always stayed on pitch limits and stuff. They always followed the pitch limits. They would always give me proper rest. They were never like have me pitch. In Little League, you're only allowed to throw 85 pitches and then take 5 days rest. But they weren't ever like throw 65 pitches, take 3 days rest, and then come back and throw again and throw 85 or whatever. They'd always like give me the proper day's rest plus then some. So I think
Right.
that's also good coaching not to hurt kids' arms.
Right. And, Anthony, you know, right away at a young age, we could see how you hit. And I mean, you could drive the ball like nobody I've seen. Let me ask you, did you go to a lot of like batting clinics or instructional clinics, like anything like that, like in the winter and stuff to, better your game?
My first hitting coach was actually my grandfather. He played baseball. He was
Right.
really good. And then he would always help me with hitting, and he still helps me with hitting to this day. And then I would do a little couple working with other people. But now I work with Coach Pete Kiefer and Coach Dennis Long up in Mystic. They're my pitching
Right.
and hitting. They're my pitching and hitting coaches, and I work with them normally out of season. Out of season every Saturday, I go up there, and then in season, I just try to get up there when I can if I'm not feeling right about something in my swing or my mechanics.
Right. And let me ask you, when you were playing in these travel leagues and things like that, were you primary a first baseman or did you play some outfield too? What was your primary position when you didn't pitch?
I always play first base when I don't pitch. I've now just started to play a little bit of the outfield, which I'm really
Right.
excited about. I always like playing the outfield; it's fun. But I'm normally a primary first base. I'm a primary first baseman when I don't pitch.
Right. Now let me ask you, you're so good at both. What do you like better, pitching or hitting?
You know, a lot of people ask me this question, and I can never have an answer. I always tell them like I like both. Like
Right.
I, it would be one of those things where someone would be like, "Hey, we're gonna have you do this instead of this one," and I'd be like, "All right, if that's what's gonna keep me on the field the longest, I'll do that." But until someone tells me to do one or the other, I'm gonna do both.
Right. And Anthony, at 11 and 12 years old, it's a lot to ask a kid to give up a lot of weekends. And you had to sacrifice a lot of weekends, to play in different travel leagues, tournaments. There's always double headers and travel leagues and stuff like that. Was there ever a time where it was too exhausting for you, or were you just always pumped up to play no matter what?
I just always like to play. If I had the choice, I'd play every week of the year. So I love playing. It was never one of those things where like I felt like I had to play. It
Right.
was like it never felt strenuous to be like, oh, I got a game today. It was more like, yeah, I got a game today. Like today's game day. I'm hyped.
Right. And I'm sure you made a lot of friendships along the way, which is also the most rewarding thing about it.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Lots of friends. Lots of friends come from travel leagues. A lot of kids that I played with in travel, I'm still friends with today. And so that's always cool. That's a big thing with travel. You meet a lot of kids because not always on your travel team are kids from your surrounding town.
Right.
So you meet a lot of kids from other towns, and then you just build friendships with them.
Right. Now, Anthony, I mentioned in 2013, I believe you were in fifth grade. You moved to Shelton. So let me ask you: you don't seem like the type of kid that has trouble adjusting. But going to a new school, a new town, was it a little intimidating for you in the beginning?
Not really, because so when I started at Perry Hill, fall ball was starting for the Little League, the fall ball league.
Right.
So it was kind of like we had our first practice or so, like a couple weeks before school started.
Right.
So in that area, I was able to meet kids that were going to the same school as me a couple weeks before, and they knew I was new. So like when I went to school, I at least like was like, oh hey, that kid's on my team. Like I can talk to him. He's my teammate. So then it kind of just stayed like that.
Right. And so you were able to, make the transition pretty quickly, and it didn't really affect you too much.
Hmm. Yeah,
Right. So now let me ask you this: when you were at Shelton Intermediate, did you play on the intermediate team? I mean, talk about that
I
a little
did.
bit.
I
Right.
did. I think the intermediate team was cool because it was my first time playing. It was like my first years playing on this bigger diamond, you know, and then being able to play for your first school team. Like that's like the first school team I ever played for. So that's cool. And then you see like the kids that you played with in seventh, eighth, and eighth grade are all the kids that you played with in high school you play with now. So it's kind of like to look back. We talk about it sometimes. We look back on it this year. We're like, wow, we played all together in eighth grade, and now we're all together in high school, and it's basically the same lineup. So that's pretty cool to think about.
Right. And you guys had some success those 2 years you played for the school. You guys won a lot of games, I believe. You know, really, like that's an important time in your life as far as baseball, sports, any sports, because they're trying to prepare you for the next level. They're trying to get you ready for high school. You're going to see tougher teams, better pitch, and things like that. Would you say that helped you a lot to prepare you when you got to high school?
I would say it did. It was a good adjustment. The coaching, Coach Maloney down at SIS, he always told us he'd be like in eighth grade, he was like, next year you guys are gonna be trying out for the freshman team and you guys in right now focus on what can I do during this season to make sure I make the freshman team. it was kind of a building block. It was like a nice transition in.
Right. And now let me ask you, freshman year, obviously you played for the freshman team, but did you also play some JV that year as well?
I did. I spent my entire freshman year down on freshman, which
Right.
I thought was pretty cool. I got to play with all my friends for a whole year. So that
Right.
was
And you pitched a lot that year, correct?
I did. I did pitch a good amount freshman
And
year.
just talk about that a little bit. I mean, what would you say was the most challenging about pitching in high school for you?
The most challenging part of pitching in high school is you realize every kid on a high school team, like most of the kids, they're in the same ballpark as you. So you always got to find ways to elevate yourself
Right.
above your competition. So freshman year, you could see like you're still kind of better. You
Right.
can be better than a lot of kids. And then my sophomore year, when I started playing varsity, I pitched in my first scrimmage, and you realize like I'm 15, about to be 16 years old, 15, 16 years old, and I'm playing kids that are 18 now. Like it's kind of
Right.
that like weird thing where you're like, wow, that kid's a senior, I'm a sophomore. And you're like, well, we're not all freshmen anymore. So you're going to face kids that are older, bigger, and stronger than you when you're younger and playing up. So
Right. And Anthony, your sophomore year, if I remember correctly, you did pitch quite a few games, and I think you won about 3 or 4 games your sophomore year, correct?
correct.
Right. And just talk about that. I mean, because you seem like the type of kid who, when he's out there, he's in his zone. He doesn't get so excited about things. But for a young 15 or 16-year-old kid, it had to be exciting to be on the varsity and contributing at such a young age.
Yeah, I always think that's cool. It's always cool to be able to play up against kids that are older
Right.
than you, but to then be able to play high school, you realize every game's competitive. You realize high school is different than travel, in my opinion, because every kid wants to win. Like travel kids might be more about like, oh, how did I play today? But in high school, kids are like, how can I help my team win today? So a lot
Right.
of kids are more focused on, hey, I gotta get a ball and play here. I'm not trying to strike out. I'm trying to help my team win, not more focused on like how they do individually.
Right. And let me ask you, Anthony, you played for Coach Scott Gura, who won a state title in 2012 with Shelton. He's been there over 10 years now. Talk about him a little bit, and also just talk about the coaching staff as well and what they meant to you and your teammates.
I think the coaching staff, they're pretty good. They they're always there. They're always at practice. They always want to help us be better. It's always a good
Right.
environment in practice that, hey, if you make a mistake, let's figure out ways to correct it, but let's not make it 2 times in a row. Like
Right.
make one, then erase it, but don't make two, don't make three, because then that shows like you're not really grasping, you're not learning. So he always tries to make sure that we understand what our mistake was and then how to fix it. So I think he's really good at that.
Right. And let me just ask you, you were elected co-captain this past season. To me, that even though as good of a player as you are, it's still always cool to be recognized and, you know, honored by your teammates and, people who voted for you, especially coaches who believed that you could lead the team. Just talk about what that meant for you to receive such an honor.
Well, I think being captain's a really big honor. Me and Max McLaughlin, our other captain, we got together in the beginning of the year and we were like, what are things we can do as captains to help better our team? And our
Right.
main goals as captains was to not be the captains that like knew we were captains. So we kind of could just try to be that kid that could do everything they want as a captain, like tell everyone to do, but more that kids were going to try to be on-field coaches during
Right.
games, like be like see things before they happened. Like, hey, if a kid's maybe playing too far to the left, too far to the right, be able to be like, hey, move over a little bit. Hey, do this, do that. Like, just help
Right.
kids be better players on field. So coaches weren't going to always have to get up mid game and start yelling at kids and where to put them. We tried to really just get into that encouraging on field, be like almost like a coach on field kind of thing.
Right, which is very important. And, a captain, that's basically their job is to kind of be another coach, and, I'm sure, like I said, that's a great learning experience for you as well.
Yes, I think it was a great learning experience being able to be a captain this year.
Right. Now, Anthony, talk to me about the seniors on this team. How many seniors were there? I know yourself and Connor Jensen both made all SCC. Um, just talk about the seniors on that team and, what they've meant to the program.
I think this was a very senior heavy team this year. I want to say we had 11.
Right.
I'm 99% sure we had 11 seniors, but I think having that senior feel to it where we all have known each other for so long that we're able to interact with each other, that no one knows it's like personal. Like,
Right.
hey, if someone tells you to just, hey, get your glove down, hey, get your foot down earlier, don't drop your back shoulder, like trying to help someone be a coach. It's not telling like, oh, I'm better than you, do what I do. It's more of like, you're just trying to help them as a teammate kind of thing. And it was able to show as the younger guys in the program, like when you're a senior, this is how you guys could try to interact with each other, set precedents for the younger group, and then just keep that culture going through.
Right. Now, Anthony, there's three highlights that stand out to me, three important parts of the season that stand out for me. I'll start one at a time with them. First off, you guys knocked off Hand, who, let's face it, they got a good shot of winning the state title. And,
they do.
You hit a big home run in that game. Just talk about that game and, how cool it was and, what it meant to you and your teammates to knock off Hand.
So I want to say 2 weeks prior, we played Hand, and we were up 4-1 in the sixth inning, or 4-0, one of the two. And they came back and they won. But that was one of those games where we were like, hey, they're the number one team state right now. We have them again in 2 weeks. We're not gonna lose again. We all said it. We were like, we're gonna play them again in 2 weeks, and we play them at our field. It's gonna be our first night game, and we're gonna refuse to lose that game no matter what. And as weeks came up to it, we knew we had other games to focus on, so we were focusing on them. But then we knew the week coming up, we were like, all right, this week's our game versus Hand. Like, we told a lot of our friends, we were like, get people to come to the game. It's a Friday night. It's 7:00. It's our first night game. Like, get people to come. We had a great crowd. So I think we really fed off the energy of the crowd. Connor pitched great that game.
Right.
He pitched one of the best games I've seen pitched. And then as a team, I think we were all just really excited. We were all there as a team. We were like, we want to win. So we just played our best game that we could, everyone individually, and everyone contributed that game.
Right. And I think it's great to have the attitude that it doesn't matter, obviously, like we said, they're a top ranked team in the state. They're very good, but you guys never looked at it as we're the underdogs. You guys looked at it as we're going to win. And I think that's what you need to have a successful program.
Yeah, I do too. I think never doubting yourself is the big thing in a lot of programs. Is that's a good mindset to have.
Right. The second highlight obviously has to be Amity, because they've been an arch rival of Shelton's for many years. They're right near each other. They're both in the SCC. It's been a rival forever. And you guys beat them for the first time, I believe, since 2016. So you're talking about 5 years of not beating them. Just talk about what that meant to you guys.
That was a game where, again, we played them earlier on in the year, and we were up at one point in the game, and we didn't close it out. They beat us the first time we played, and then the next time we played, we were like, all right, we know it's going to be another battle. That's no easy program just to outright go and beat. And so as a team, we were like, again, it doesn't matter if they're where they're ranked in the state, like, don't lose this game again. Don't lose to them twice. And we went out and we played hard, and we ended up winning.
Right. And that's always a special moment. Again, you guys pulled off 2 upsets right there, Hand and Amity. And it just shows that when you guys play together, good things happen. And I think that's why the team was so successful this year, because it was a team. Nobody was worried about individual goals. They were just worried about doing what was best for the team.
Yes, I think that was a big thing on our team. Everyone knew, like, hey, I have a job to do at a position, and I want to do my job the best I can to help the team win.
Right. And Anthony, the third one, and I saved that for last because to me, it was just an awesome game for you. You tied a single season record at Shelton High when you struck out 17 batters against East Haven. And I'm sure at the time you're pitching, you're not counting your strikeouts. You don't even realize it. But just talk about that, most times, you know, you pitch 7 innings. So, you got to get 21 outs. So just think about that. I mean, 17 of your outs were strikeouts. So that's just phenomenal. Talk about that accomplishment and what that meant to you.
I think it was pretty cool. It wasn't one of those games where I was going in, I was like, man, I want to strike everybody out. It was one of those games where I wanted to be efficient in my pitch count. That's always a thing, a goal I try to set for myself. And really, like later on in the year, I was like, how efficient can I be? Like, how many pitches I want to be pitching when the fifth and sixth inning, seventh inning come around. Like, I don't want to just be pitching 3 to 4 inning games. Like, so I was just going up there. My main focus was simplifying my mechanics and just really just trying to get the ball over the plate to make sure they were swinging. And it just happened that that was the day that I felt good. Everything I was doing felt good, and my team was behind me, and I just felt good that day. So
Right.
yeah.
And the other thing too is you have to have outstanding control because when you strike out that many batters, chances are your pitch count can go up. And I think you guys are only allowed to throw 105 a game or 110. And
110.
right, 110. So you really have to have your control or you're not going to have a game like that because you're going to be out by like the sixth inning.
Yes. So yeah, that was a big thing for me in the beginning of the year. I
Right.
wasn't having the best stat control, but as the season went on and progressed, I found it, and yeah.
Right. And you guys you won the first round of your tournament game. You hit I still, I watched that home run yesterday again because it was just such a mammoth home run. I mean, talk about like, do you when you hit a home run, do you pretty much know the ball's gone most of the
Uh,
time when you hit them or
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, I flew out, and then sometimes I'm like, nah, I got that one.
right.
So
Yeah. It's not easy. Like it depends what ballpark you play into. You know, let me ask you this, Ian. Just talk about. I mentioned the seniors, but and you, like you said, played with these guys. Probably you played travel with some of them. You played, Shelton Intermediate with them, and obviously high school with them. Just talk about what they've meant as friends to you, not just teammates.
oh, as friends, they're all amazing friends. They're people I consider my closest friends, and they're people you spend most of your time with them in the spring and in the off season. So you see them every day. So it's always like it's cool to be able to know that off the field we all still talk to each other. It's not one of those teams where like they only talk to each other because they're teammates. It's more we're all really good friends and we're really good teammates to each other.
Right. Now, I know you're not one. I could just tell from over the years when I've talked to you, you're not the type of person that really likes the spotlight on him. But I mean, some of the accomplishments this year, I mean, you had 86 strikeouts, which is just phenomenal because I think you guys played 18 regular season games. So chances are you pitched maybe 8 or 9 games this year. And to have 86 strikeouts in 8 or 9 games is phenomenal. You hit 471. You had 5 home runs. I mean, I could go on and on the stuff you did. Your on base percentage was 543, which is just that is extraordinary. Just talk about, do you ever look at, I know you don't like to, ever talk about yourself, but do you look at that stuff and you have to be proud at what you accomplished in your high school career.
I think I was very blessed with the talent that God gave me to be a baseball player, and then
Right.
when it translates onto the field, it's one of those things where you're like, I was blessed with the talent, and it's cool to be able to use your talent on a field and to be able to help a team win.
Right. And I mentioned you made all SEC, but I think it was announced yesterday, maybe Thursday, that you had made the all state team. And again, that's a wonderful accomplishment because, you're not just playing teams in the valley, you're playing, teams in the SEC, and that's very tough to do. You're playing Class Double L teams. So to make all state, is a very, rare thing for an athlete to do. That had to be special for you and a great moment for you.
I did. I really was happy that I did get selected to All State. I think my coaches and my teammates for all that. Thank God for the talent for it. But yeah, All State's a pretty cool accomplishment to be able to say that you made.
Right. Now, before we talk about your next career, one thing I wanted to bring up, and you mentioned, fans coming to the games, packing the house and stuff like that. But there's always been one fan who's been your biggest fan throughout your career and life, and that's your mother. Just talk about her a little bit, because from day one, she has probably been not only your biggest fan, but also your best friend too.
Oh yeah, she's amazing. She helps me. She wants to be able to help me with everything. She's still the person I ask, Mom, can you come up, give me front toss at the cage? Can you hit me ground balls at first? And she still says yes every single time.
And she was a great athlete herself. Yeah.
She was.
Right. I think she was a basketball player,
She was a
wasn't she?
baller.
Yeah, she was very good. And I mean, just the bond you two have. I mean, I bet every home run you hit or anything you do on the field, you always smile, because she's clapping the hardest, and nobody's more proud of you than she is.
Oh yeah.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the next step for you. I believe you've already committed to Penn State, and I believe you're leaving soon. I believe you're leaving towards the end of June. So just
I
talk about how Penn State came about, and just tell us, were there any other schools that you were considering, or was Penn State always number one?
so I started the recruitment process for me, I think started the summer going into sophomore year. And I was playing travel at the time, and there were other schools that would talk to me. Fairfield was one of the first ones, and then it moved on to Monmouth, Northeastern, Central, um, in a couple other schools. And then one day, my sophomore year, I was up at a showcase with my pitching and hitting coach, uh, Dennis Long and Pete Kiefer, and they running a showcase, and Penn State was there. They knew one of the coaches, and they were like, "Hey, we're holding a showcase. If you want to come down, you can come down." It was a very general thing,
Right.
and they saw me there. And then after, their coach Dallas Burke, Coach Burke, he was the first one to talk to me, and he was like, "I really like your swing. You got a good physical size to you, and I want to stay in touch." And then from that day on, we always just stayed in touch after they saw me, and then I was able to go on a visit up there my junior year, after you're allowed to do official visits and everything. And
Right.
I immediately fell in love with the campus. The place is just beautiful. I was able to go to the whiteout game up there, which is an amazing atmosphere, very big
Right.
tradition thing up there. And the campus is amazing. The facilities are amazing. The coaching staff is amazing. And I'm excited to go.
Right. And Anthony, we keep talking about your athletic accomplishments, but people don't realize either what an outstanding student you are. I think you've maintained a straight A average throughout your education. You know, just talk about how important academics are more than anything else.
Academics are important. I mean, I was never like a major like yes school. Like I was never like when I was younger.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really like school. But as I got
Right.
older, I started to like school. You realize like it's a day basically 7 hours a day. You're surrounded by some of your best friends, and you get to learn. And I realized no matter how much baseball was like, you can't. Schools aren't gonna look at you if your grades are bad.
Right.
So I was always very big on like make sure that your grades are where they are. Mom always told me your grades are very important. Go handle what you have to do in the classroom. Always try your best on everything. Don't be
Right.
the kid that's like, I'm failing. That's cool. Like it's cool to fail kind of thing. Like
Right.
be out there, do your best on everything, study, and your grades are what carries you.
Right. Now, let me ask you, I'm sure it's a little of both. I'm sure you're a little nervous, but also anxious to get there. to Penn State. What are your feelings right now? Because you still have 2 more weeks of school. You have graduation coming up. So, I mean, are you anxious to get down there, or are you just like trying to enjoy these last couple weeks?
I think it's more. I'm more of a live in the moment kind of person.
Right,
So even though I know it's coming up, I realize I got a little more time left, and I'm focused on graduation, being able to spend time with some friends before I leave. I am excited, but I'm just living in the moment right now.
right. Anthony, before we go, what advice would you give to kids who are now in your position, like that are maybe 11 or 12 years old, and it could be football, basketball, running, baseball, whatever it is, softball. What advice would you give them if they want to, go far with that sport?
Um, I think the most important thing when you're like from 11 to 12 and probably 13 too, just have fun with the sport you're playing. Like you don't want to make your sport feel like your job at the age of 12, because then by the time you're the age of 16, you're going to be like, wow, I don't know if I want to do this anymore kind of
Right,
thing. So have fun when the game is still about you really having fun. There's no pressure on you in Little League. It's Little League. You're 11 and 12 years old. Like just go out, have fun. When you know you want to go and take it far, go and work to take it far. But don't worry about when you're 11. Colleges aren't going to be like, oh my goodness, that's an 11-year-old. Let's go talk to them. They're not going to put that pressure
right,
on. They're not going to go put that pressure on an 11-year-old. They're going to wait till you're older. That's when you start handling your thing. But have fun when you're young.
right. Well, Anthony, I mentioned earlier I met you in 2013. You were just a 10-year-old kid, and few year I haven't seen you in a few years, but I've always kind of kept track at what you're doing, and just seeing the type of season you had this year, and knowing that you're going to Penn State and you're going to further your education and baseball career. I mean, I can't tell you how proud I am of you, and what a pleasure it was to, you know, watch you grow up a little bit. And I want to thank you for coming on today, and I really do wish you the best of luck in everything you do.
Oh well, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you. I remember being able to do the after school program that started in fifth and sixth grade, and you were my first camp counselor. And then seventh grade, I went to the Boys and Girls Club, and you were there too. And that was all. That's thank you for just being an awesome person in my life.
Well, no problem. And you were a pleasure to have at the club. And again, I wish you nothing best but the best of luck. I'll be rooting for you every second. And congratulations on all your accomplishments.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me on today.
No problem. Folks, I mentioned earlier that I met Anthony Steele back in 2013. It was the first year he started going to the Perry Hill Boys and Girls Club program. Usually in your first year, you're getting your feet wet, you're still meeting people, sometimes you're a little shy. Well, in his first year, he did something that is very rare. He was awarded the Perry Hill Boy of the Year. And usually a first time member doesn't get that award right away, but that just tells you the special person that Anthony Steele was then. And now you fast forward to 2021. He's an 18-year-old kid, and here he is, still this special kid who's doing so many great things. Yes, he's a terrific athlete. Yes, he is phenomenal at baseball. But when you talk to the person and you just see how he conducts himself and carries himself, that to me is what is most impressive about this extraordinary young man. He's on his way to Penn State after a great career at Shelton High School. He is going to do great things in his life. And the best part for all of us is we get to watch it happen. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying goodbye, everyone.